We got a great, amazing, legendary guest today. People said that we couldn't do this unless we had this dude on, and I completely understand why. And I'm super thankful and grateful that he was willing to do this, because he's done so much for Seattle graffiti, and I don't even need to explain it. If you know Seattle and you really know graffiti, you know Blink. So I just want to say thank you for coming. And if you just want to tell the people like when you started painting and where you came up and your whole graffiti career and how it all started.
That's a lot of questions in one, but I guess
I usually do that.
I guess how I started painting was kind of having influence from other people that had already been painting or seen a lot of graffiti in other cities, because there wasn't, well, obviously the internet wasn't a thing. I'd say that my influence in me started painting had to do a lot when I was like in high school, and I had a few friends. One of my friends that had lived in New York for a long time always talked about graffiti, was super into graffiti, drawing graffiti and like, you know, books and all that types of stuff. And we were always, you know, super into stickers and art, so we were doing things like that. But so I'd say like one of my friends from New York was a big influence. Another one of my friends that lived in Europe came from like the Czech Republic, where, you know, if you guys have ever been to Europe or seen photos, you know, graffiti is a lot different, especially in other parts of the world, more accepted to a certain extent. You know, you can paint there more. So I'd say like a good couple of my friends had a good influence, and that was probably about 97 98 when I started paying attention and getting into it more. A little bit before then, but more or less that was kind of the beginning. It was a really big deal when we first got a mean streak. I mean, just getting a mean streak was just like amazing. It was hard to use. Didn't quite understand getting a big chisel tip marker. But you know, even just having a few bucks just to get something like that. And you know, that was before mail order was around, but we didn't even know about, you know, hip hop graffiti magazines. You know, we were still just kind of just seeing the graffiti around and kind of like that, I guess.
Do you recall the first spot that you ever really painted or consider like a spot you got?
I remember the first illegal marker tag I did, and I remember the first illegal spray paint tag I did.
Can you explain that?
One of the first ones we had just small chisel markers, probably like the Marks a Lots, and I believe it was like a blue little chisel. And we used to, you know, parents are gone, we're like teenagers messing around at the house. You know, you would be like sneaking around behind their back, you know, maybe drinking a little bit or smoking weed. And then you kind of got into like graffiti, and you were like, well, let's just go do the graffiti down by where we're smoking weed. And so that was like down the alley from my house on somebody's garage. And then I remember the first spray paint tag I did too. It was the same word, and you know, it was like, you know, just a word that I messed around with a long time ago. Really had no idea. I can't even remember if I had spray painted anything like a surface before that, you know, like how a normal person would use spray paint, right? But I just remember doing the tag way too big, and it looked so bad. But I remember it being in the middle of the day, trying to do it real fast, just kind of under a bridge by the park, by the walking path. But that spot still exists. I actually used to let graffiti run there, which is actually a really weird thing in the middle of a public park.
That was interesting. And when you were coming up, who were you like? Who were the guys that were inspiring you the most to want to get out and go do stuff?
I remember when I first was like into graffiti and I started noticing things. It was definitely things around my neighborhood or around the schools, things around the freeway. So you're going to an event, maybe, you know, with your parents, you're riding in the car, you'd see something like on the back of a freeway sign. You're just like, you know, who the hell did that? How did they do that?
As far as people, do you remember any people names that you were super hyped on?
I do remember even my mom commenting on something one time, which was really funny to me. She goes, well, how did he do that? He just shimmied up there. And it was a Jabs. Obviously, you know, if you know about graffiti, you know about Jabber. But, you know, when Jabs was in Seattle in the, you know, late 90s or whatnot, he was writing Jab and Jabber, you know, like Jabs. You know, 3-4 letter versions of it. And I remember a good amount of some OFA people painting and some BTM people painting. A lot of those crews have been around for a really long time. Many different generations later still exist. There was these guys, Art Crew, who used to paint a lot. I used to see. Yeah, a lot of KYT guys. Those guys were doing a lot of work. There was a lot of names out there. A lot of people who still exist, still paint, but yeah, a lot of those guys.
Kind of gonna let this little gust of wind, but the next question is, what is your favorite types of spots to paint? Like, yeah, what just gets you off the most? And as far as now, and still you've been doing it for so long, so like what still excites you the most?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, you know, like I've painted a lot of different types of surfaces, a lot of different types of areas, you know, whether it be like, you know, track sides or trains or rooftops or, you know, what somebody would call like, you know, hot boy spots. But, you know, like you said, I mean, like I have been like into graffiti and I'm still like actively painting, and it's been a long time. I like a good mix, but honestly, like right now, like I like taking it easy, taking my time, painting with my buddies. You know, daytime's nice because you can see all your fucking colors. You know, kill all your scrap cans, and you know, you go to a quote unquote chill spot, which any spot, you know, could be a chill spot, but even the chill spots, shit can go down, you know.
Right.
Still got to be aware.
Right.
I do like painting trains a lot still. I probably first train I ever painted was around 2000. I didn't really get into trains too much until 2003, and then painted a lot of trains starting in 2007, 2008. It's cool to be able to still paint, you know. My trigger finger works. I'm lucky enough to have a good supply of paint and areas to get it, so.
What stops you from doing more graffiti than you'd like to?
What stops me from it? I'd say like even just motivated, just being motivated enough to actually just get up my ass and do it. The internet is a blessing and a curse with the way that media and, you know, Netflix or whatever platform you're using, you know, you get real comfortable, and you know, it's like you're hanging out and you just go like, fuck, you know, like maybe I should go paint. So it's good to have a good, you know, partner to paint with, somebody to call you up, get you motivated and stuff. COVID has definitely been quite weird, you know, even just walking around during the day mostly is so much different. I'm still painting, but yeah, these things are just, you know, weird. But I'd say short answer to your what keeps you from painting. It's just kind of, time management, and stuff, trying to figure out, necessary things as well, but still want to be able to go paint.
Right.
Probably a shitty answer, but it's part of it, I guess.
Something you said is having a homie hit you up, and then one of the questions is, one of your favorite people to paint with?
Well, I mean, I've painted with, hundreds of people over the years, if not more, who knows, right? I mean, time's gone by, and there's a lot of partners that I painted with a lot that I don't paint with anymore, that I've had a real good, rep with, and real good communication. Like when I used to paint with Task railheads, we were painting a lot of trains. We were painting a good amount of street spots, freeways, or whatever. We were just, we were painting a lot, and we had a really good communication. We had, like a good method to what we were doing. We kind of had, you paint with somebody for a while, you meld with them, you can communicate colors, you can communicate who's doing this, who wants to do this part to bring it together. Definitely him. But I mean, nowadays, he's got his other thing going on and stuff. Not everybody can hold on to graffiti as much as they want and keep painting. It is a hard thing to manage. We all got things going on, whether it be family or jobs or just mental health and all these types of things, right? But it's good to have friends around. I paint with a lot of people in the crew these days. RNU, I've been riding that crew for going on 17 years, and there's a good handful of people in that crew that I like to paint with. Hopefully on a weekly basis. So there's been plenty of people in the past that I've had really, really good time painting with. Some of them are coming back. Some of them have just been, busy. But it's good to see friends paint that haven't painted for 3 or even 8 years. You see people coming back painting again. It's nice.
So that's also a good way to ease into our next question. Can you talk about the good people you've come across in graffiti through painting and have met, and kind of the shitty people in graffiti?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely all types of people. That's the thing about graffiti, is that there is always going to be all types of people. There's going to be the shitbag people who always say, yeah, well, fuck graffiti, I do it for vandalism, it's not about art. Which could be fine for one person. But there's a lot of really good people too, who are like at heart really good people. They're there, they got your back. If you're in a bind and you call them up, they'd be there to like help you out. But graffiti is one of those things that there's a stigma towards it, because everybody says you're a criminal, you're destroying this property, you can't be a good person, which I definitely disagree with. But it's easier to judge a whole group of people than actually get to know certain people.
Greatest thing you've learned from graffiti that you use in regular day life?
I'd say definitely one of the best things that I've learned from graffiti is just having a good perception, just being able to notice things, being able to be aware of what's going on in your environment, having a very good sense of space, knowing where your body is, knowing where, what you're capable of. Can I climb this? Can I fit through that? Can I reach that? It's given me a lot of mobility, and it's also just given me an eye for detail. You notice something that a lot of people don't notice, and it might seem real stupid to other people, but that stuff is important. You you can point something out, and it may or may not help somebody else to hear that kind of stuff, because sometimes you have to be a little bit, hard on people, or you gotta, kind of judge somebody, but sometimes that stuff can be real helpful towards people to be able to, like notice something.
How does it feel to be Blink?
I'll let you know when I'm him again. Oh wait, oh, no, yeah. How does it feel? Well, okay. It doesn't feel any different than being my regular self. But it is nice to meet people in the graffiti circle or the culture that recognize me as that persona. I've definitely come with many nicknames over the year, and a lot of people who refer to me nicknames, along the lines of Blink. And I've definitely met a lot of people in the circle, made many new friends. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a normal person. I definitely, it feels strange sometimes because I do know that, like, there is such another part of me that's so different that people will never understand or even know. Like, like, for example, like you would say, like, one of your parents. Well, yeah, they know I'm like into graffiti and like art, but they have no idea the extent of like things that I've done. I mean, if they were to hear about places I've traveled, or, like the cuts that I've been into, the places that I've gone just to do this stuff, I mean, they'd fucking shit their pants. But, I mean, I feel good about, my life so far, and I'm excited, for more to come. Obviously, within the state of the way things are right now, traveling, especially to other places, is actually not even, you can't even do it, which is insane. I definitely had a few trips been put on hold this year, but Blink as usual, I guess. Still trying to do what I do, adapting to new situations and new ways of living, but still here, not gonna stop.
And as far as Instagram and how it's impacted graffiti and the internet, I mean, obviously the internet's been impacting graffiti, but Instagram had such a big, huge, I mean, it's been running graffiti, honestly, for a bit, which is kind of sad to say. It's not really true, but it has a very strong, how could I say, that's what everybody's on. So where do you see this going? Do you think Instagram is still going to be a thing? Is it all going to end, or where do you see that part of graffiti going?
Well, I mean, Instagram is pretty much Facebook, right? They're like bought out by Facebook. Facebook's sure as fuck not going anywhere. I think most people's mothers are on Facebook. It's definitely a really, really, really popular thing. And then now Instagram just being owned by Facebook, I don't think that shit's going anywhere. It is weird that you can go on there and have a persona of being this graffiti writer on Instagram and showing everybody what's going on, but also I feel like the timetables are completely askewed and like really out of whack, because you can make people think, or you can trick people into anything you want. I constantly tell people, yeah, I don't post what I just did, that day, or my story isn't like in time, because it doesn't really matter to me for people to know what's going on for my day-to-day life. If they want to be involved in my day-to-day life, let's hang out, like, let's do something. Yes, like, things are a little bit weird right now, and everybody wants to hang out, can't travel as much, but at the same time, it's like, if you really want to get to know me and you're my homie, like, let's hang out and paint in real time. But I'll post it on my Instagram eventually. So, like, a lot of the graffiti that you see that I've done, yes, there's a lot of old photos, see things on my story that, like, aren't happening in real time. I don't find it necessary to show everybody what I've done immediately. Just doing stuff sometimes is just enough. I've definitely painted plenty of things that I don't care about photos. Photos are nice, but in retrospect, I'm not really doing anything with those photos anyway. I have no plans to, publish this, great novel of photos and stories. If somebody else wants to do that or, help me, sure, we can figure something out. But other than that, Instagram, it's an internet game. It's a platform you can do whatever you want with it. A lot of people love to talk shit and be a completely different character than they are in real life. I always think that's really funny because I feel like your internet persona should, represent yourself as who you are without giving away who you are in that way, I suppose. Because if you met me in real life, yes, I'm going to be different than you would imagine, but get to know me and you're going to learn, oh yeah, well, I see that shit that he does on Instagram. I understand that. That makes sense now. It's kind of a puzzle. I guess it'd be easy to rant about internet graffiti and say that it, ruined graffiti, the purism of it, but it just took it to a wider audience. It made it easier to get noticed. You could use it or lose it. A lot of people just paint because they like to do it. A lot of other people like to show people. There's a happy median. It's kind of... shrug shoulders.
What are we at on time right now? We got 2 more questions. 11? Cool, perfect. Okay, so graffiti in 20 years, what do you see it? In 2040, how are people going to be hitting spots? How is it going to be? You think it's going to be what it is today?
It's so crazy to think about, right? Just to think about 20 years from now, because you think about what's happened in the last 20 years and where we've come and what's happened and what we've done in our lives and how old we'll be, other family members, friends, children, jobs and all that. But yeah, I honestly thought, in the early to mid 2000s that graffiti was going to take a huge downturn, that it was going to be less and less, just with the way that cameras were, because everybody had cameras and everybody had phones. So I figured, hey, everybody's got cameras, everybody's got phones, they're going to be documenting things, they're going to be calling the police more, there's going to be a lot more. But it was almost the opposite, because I feel like with the way that technology went, everybody having their phone, they were disassociated with real life and the way things that were actually happening, so they're not paying attention anymore. They're more involved in what's going on your phone than actually what's going on in real life. So in a way, graffiti got to flourish. I mean, if you look at some of the spots that people are painting now, real time, doing lives, painting in the middle of the day, painting right in front of thousands of people, getting away with it, you would ask somebody that, 10 odd years ago and be like, no fucking way. But in 20 years, I mean, to even think of the number 2040 is insane. I mean, I'll be happy just to be alive, I mean, who knows from a day to day what happens, I've lost plenty of friends and plenty of people that I've known growing up, and I'm just happy to be able to round to catch a spot or hang out with somebody any day, next week, next month. But man, the future of graffiti, I mean, that's a great question. For me, I mean, I could see myself doing a lot of the same things I do now, but definitely slowing down. Obviously, your body isn't going to let you do as many things as you want to, depending on how you take care of it. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see. I couldn't even imagine or give a guess to the way it's going to go with the way media is and the way that they seem to be infiltrating into our phones and into our homes. I hope the best, but it's definitely not it's not such a normal thing. We do live in a different place, even just doing the graffiti and activities that we partake in. So kind of have to adapt.
So this is a question. I feel like this would be a good one for you, because I feel like you are a true OG, and doing these interviews, a lot of people have brought up how having an OG is so important to put you on. And so this is basically, what would you say to the youngsters getting into graffiti, like right now, just starting? I mean, and that is also another hard thing to think about, but what advice would you give them?
I think when I was growing up and I was raised, and I had certain people telling me about the way things were, or what was smart to do and what was dumb to do, a lot of those things still apply. You do hear people say a lot about how the rules haven't got passed down to the younger generation, and how the internet has kind of given everybody a chance to just do whatever the hell they want and not have to account for it. I would say to the youngsters, I would say, slow the fuck down and pay attention to the history. Know where you're at. If you travel, don't just keep going over people. That's one of the ways to get people really pissed off at you. And learn to where and where not to paint. Yes, a lot of people disagree with that, say fuck that, paint wherever you want, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it's like, especially now with the way that things are going with like the worldwide pandemic and shit, the government doesn't give a fuck about like your small business. They don't really care about you. They just want to collect money from you. They're not going to help you. So maybe like think about some of the places that you're painting and not destroying them like over and over and over and over again. Like, a lot of these people are totally screwed right now, and they're still having to buff that shit. Some cities have regulations that say we can fine you if you don't get rid of this graffiti. Like, you might as well just, paint fucking good spots too. Like, anybody can paint the same spot over and over again. But like, if you get an original spot and you actually put some forethought into it and paint a good spot, that spot could be there for 20 years. I mean, if you look around and you gotta like find shit, there's stuff that's around since like the 90s and before. I mean, if you go out traveling, you go look out in the woods, you go look under bridges, you go, back alleys and basements, you'll find stuff from the 40s and the 60s. And that was like a complete different era of graffiti than now. I mean, you'd be excited just to see something that somebody did from like 3-4 years ago. And a lot of people don't even do graffiti for 3-4 years. So I would just say, pay a little bit of attention, practice a little bit more. Because no matter what, the shit that you do when you first start writing, you're always going to look back and you're going to hate it. But the fact of you doing it, like at that time, I mean, there's some simplicity in that, just being like, I was content enough to do that, and I was happy enough with that at the time. So progression is nice, and for some people, they haven't progressed. They've been painting the same piece for 15-20 years, just changing the colors and throwing a couple little arrows and bits here, and that works for some people. And 2-letter throw-ups in black and white work for people. So I mean, there's all different aspects. I would just clean up your fucking mess. Cans are a lot lighter on the way out when they're empty than on the way in. I mean, those things weigh like, about a pound a piece? You can take those things out and clean up the fucking spot. If you're gonna leave your graffiti, that's enough. You don't need to leave your garbage. It's a double shit. Fuck you. Kids these days, they'll learn. It might not be easy, but take some advice from somebody. Talk to somebody. Like actually give a shit and try to learn something. Know something about the history.
appreciate you doing this.
We done?
That's it. Did you have breakfast today? Did you eat any breakfast or no?
Yes, I did. Pretty much cereal every day.
Okay, that's how it works.
Actually, I think I'm gonna have you help me fucking do my grip on my GoPro. Fucking mark that.
Three, two, one. Nice little clap test. Okay, so we're gonna read 3. 3, 2, 1.